Hey everybody, what's going on? If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner and subscribe to my Montreal Canadiens YouTube channel. New videos are posted every Friday. And I think it's going to be an interesting exercise today because on The Athletic, Corey Pronman, their NHL prospects writer and insider, posted an organizational pipeline ranking which had the Montreal Canadiens ranked 6th in the NHL and 2nd in the Atlantic Division. So I think that it's a good time to kind of dive in to his rankings, talk about what I believe is going to happen with the future of this Montreal Canadiens team, and kind of give a glimpse into why it's not as glim as a lot of people are maybe making it out to be right now, because the Montreal Canadiens don't necessarily have that superstar right home about player, whether that's a Connor McDavid or an Austin Matthews, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, those type of players. The Montreal Canadiens don't have any of those in their system right now. But the one thing they do have is depth, and I believe that if one or two of these players or surprise players can hit in the long run, that the Montreal Canadiens are going to be in a fantastic position moving forward. Now let's kind of look into his list here. If you look at Pronman's list, it's under 22. That's kind of the area that you had to be in order to be qualified for this list. And Cole Caufield comes in at number 1. And I think that makes a lot of sense here because Caufield has the tools to be a 50 goal scorer in the National Hockey League. He does have some defensive shortcomings, but this is a star talent and is likely going to be one of the best offensive wingers in the NHL over the next 5 seasons. He might not be a player that is going to necessarily drive play with his line, but he can score from anywhere in the offensive zone and just has a lot of things that make you think of a bona fide goal scorer in the NHL. Afterwards, I'm going to look at the list right now. Again, looking at the list, he has number 2. It is Uri Slavkovsky, the former number 1 overall pick 2 seasons ago. I think it makes a lot of sense because Pronman was one of the highest on Slavkovsky at that NHL draft in 2022. And he does have that toolkit, and that's a big thing that Pronman emphasizes is the toolkit that Slavkovsky has, and I tend to agree with his assessment of that. There's kind of a wide range of outcomes for this player moving forward, and I think that's something that has to be taken into consideration here. At his high end, I could see Slavkovsky being a 35 goal scorer in the NHL, but that's not necessarily one of the outcomes that has to hit. He could also be a 20 goal scorer and someone that necessarily isn't a high-end play driver, just someone that can contribute with his very high-end shot. So there's kind of a wide range of outcomes with Slavkovsky, and I think that's something that I tend to agree on with Pronman here. Even though he does have that high-end ceiling, it's not necessarily guaranteed that he ever reaches that level. So I think a lot's going to depend on how the Canadiens continue working with him over the next 2 or 3 seasons. Let's not be quick to call him a bust. I think this is the type of player that the Canadian fans are going to grow to appreciate, but he's someone that needs to be moving in the right direction. I think he's going to do that next season. If you look at the reports surrounding him in the offseason, there's a lot of positivity surrounding Slavkovsky in terms of how he's been training. So I think that there's a lot of good that's going to come from this player moving forward. Number 3 on that ranking was the Canadiens' recent first-round pick at 5th overall, and that was David Reinbacher. There's not a lot of flaws with this player. He's pretty much a bona fide top 4 defenseman. The question is, does he have number 1 defenseman upside? I kind of wonder about that myself. I think his ceiling is a number 2 defenseman, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think he has a steady puck-moving presence. He's someone that has really good gap control, can really control the defensive game as well. This is a player that can move the puck well. He might not be able to ever run a top power play in the NHL, but I don't think that's going to stop him from putting up 35 to 40 points on a yearly basis while also playing really strong defensive hockey. He's someone that can eat upwards of 22 minutes a night, and those players are going to be very valuable on what's evidently the strength of the Montreal Canadiens moving forward, and that's their defense. Number 4 right now is Kirby Dach, and we kind of saw him break out a bit last season. He has a lot of the tools that you're looking for a second line center. I don't necessarily think he's ever going to get the opportunity to play above that as long as Nick Suzuki is in Montreal. And I believe that Dach has the potential to be a really strong number 2 center in the NHL, and Pronman evidently believes the same. So I think a lot of The top five right now that we're going to be looking at rounding out that list is Goolie as the second defenseman. And I believe that Goolie also has top pairing upside, much like David Reinbacher does. There's just some question marks about whether the offensive game is going to translate 100% to the NHL. We saw him have a strong rookie campaign when he wasn't injured last year, and I think there's a lot of upside with this player, but there's still questions about the offense as well. But I think defensively, Goolie is going to be someone that you don't want to see coming down your wing. If you're a winger and you're going to have to go up against a defenseman, you're not going to want to see Goolie on that side of the ice. So I think that's a positive with the Montreal Canadiens. I think when you look at this list, there's a lot of really solid names on it, and it goes beyond the top five. But what it really highlights right now for the Montreal Canadiens is that they have a lot of young talent, a lot of depth in their prospects pipeline, a lot of young players under the age of 22 that are still going to be able to contribute in the NHL moving forward. So I think that there's a lot of positivity surrounding this club right now. I think that there's a lot of depth in the system. I think that there's some potential stars here, maybe not superstars, but definitely some potential stars. And that's a very positive thing if you're the Montreal Canadiens organization right now, especially when you're in the middle of a rebuild. We don't really know what to expect this season. I think there's a hope that they're going to take a bit of a step forward, but how much is still unknown. So I think that's very positive in terms of where Prodman ranked them, which is 6th in the NHL in this exercise that he did. That's it for me today from Cook's Corner. As always, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of Prodman's ranking of the Montreal Canadiens organizational pipeline and how you see this turning out moving forward. I'm Zach Cook. We'll see you later.